Alright, everybody, how we doing today? Alrighty then. Shall we continue? So, this will be interesting. It says, at DC rally, activists want Trump to know that they vape and they vote. This is from Reason, Free Minds and Free Markets. And it says, a pending ban on flavored nicotine vaping products would destroy most of their industry, warn vaping advocates. Washington, D.C. Several thousand activists gathered on Saturday on the National Mail to voice their opposition to a federal ban on flavored nicotine vaping products. The ban, they say, will be lethal for the vaping industry and for millions of ex-smokers who have relied on these products to quit cigarettes. The crowd was blanketed by a heavy fog of fragrant-smelling vape clouds, but the message was crystal clear. If the President Donald Trump continues with his plans for a flavor ban, he risks alienating a large motivated bloc of single-issue voters who might otherwise be in his camp. We have an audience in the short term of one, says Greg Conley, Executive Director of the United States Vapers Alliance, which organized the rally. Thousands of consumers and small business owners have made it very loud and clear that if Trump allowed this to go through, it could cost him re-election in 2020. In September, prompted partly by a rise in teen vaping and partly by the spread of a fatal vaping-related lung disease, Trump announced that federal government would ban most flavored nicotine vaping products and push forward. The deadline for when vaping products are required to get FDA approval from 2022 to May 2020 last Friday. The president also said that he would raise the age requiring to buy vaping products to 21. But those laws are unlikely to stop the problems they are supposed to solve. A study from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, published last week, has given yet more support to the theory that the vaping-related lung disease is caused by a vitamin E acetate found in illicit THC vaping cartridges, not the flavored nicotine products that could be subject to Trump's ban. Now here's where I would spew the libertarian line about we should keep government out of the marketplace. And while that is true that we should largely keep the government out of the marketplace for the most part, and have at least 90% free market, but let's get real. This is more than just about government interventionism. This is about Trump being a lazy ass and not doing his research and finding out why the lung disease is happening. He's probably thinking, oh, it must be just vaping, period. Vaping is killing people. Like, no, Mr. President, vaping is not killing people. Vaping illicit black market vapes is killing people. Do your damn research. Lazy ass. For many at Saturday's rally, Trump's prohibitionist impulse is a stab in the back from a president they were counting on to take a deregulatory approach to their industry. I'd voted for Trump on the promise that he going to go in and undo regulations and allow small business to flourish, Matthew Clazo, the owner of several Florida vape stores, told Reason. The president's support for a flavor ban, he warned, will come back to bite him. James Howard, who owns 2 stores with his wife in Colorado Springs, expressed a similar sentiment. I'm a right-leaning independent. I support Trump 1 to 100%. Do I not support this at all? This is not a conservative tactic, he said Saturday. On a soundstage, speakers talked of being disappointed and even betrayed by Trump and his flavor ban, which they considered arbitrary and un-American. In the crowd, store owners and others held signs that said, "We vape, we vote." A flavor ban, they warned, would be fatal to an industry that the Washington Post has, as recently as September, dubbed a miraculous small business success story. Analyzing data from the U.S. Department of Labor, the Post found that the number of tobacconists, a category that includes vape shops, had grown over 100% in the last decade, far faster than the other retail. The number of people employed by these tobacconists had grown at a similar rate. 2/3 of vape shop workers are employed by businesses with fewer than 100 employees. A study from the Vapor Technology Association, or VTA, a trade association, found that the industry has created either directly or indirectly some 166,007 jobs. He's literally killing the market and increasing unemployment with this ban on a product that under normal circumstances would be safe. Banning it won't make the mortality rate lower, it's going to make the mortality rate rise. Because people desperate to get off cigarettes and nicotine are either going to go back to cigarettes, or they're going to start buying more black market stuff, and more of them are going to start dropping dead. Go figure. He, like so many politicians before him, he just does not do the research. This is why the government just needs to stay out of the market, because they just do not know what they're doing. A big part of conscientiousness is knowing the effect you have on your environment and realizing that sometimes the best thing to do is to just stay out of it. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make it worse. And Trump doesn't know what he's doing. For others, the issue of a flavor ban was more personal. Flavored nicotine vaping products had been essential in helping them quitting smoking. A ban, they said, might prevent others from doing the same or even encourage some vapors to go back to cigarettes. Lots of attendees at the rally supported Mad Libs-style T-shirts on which they filled out their name, the number of years they smoked, and the flavor that helped them quit. A group of 30-somethings from North Carolina told Reason that they couldn't have quit without flavors listing candy cane, apple, butter toast, and propaganda Illuminati, apparently a fruit flavor. That is amazing, as the ones that help them the most. This is not a lifestyle, it's a life or death, said one speaker from the stage. She asked if anyone in the crowd had lost a loved one to a smoking-related illness. Almost everyone had. The individual anecdotes are backed up by the data, says Sally Sattel, an addiction psychiatrist at the American Enterprise Institute who attended Saturday's rally. When flavors are threatened or aren't available, they'll return to smoking or they'll go to a black market vape in the situation, said Sattel. We've already seen what black market THC does. We're setting ourselves up for the same situation. Yeah, but you can't expect Trump to be intelligent enough. He's really kind of an idiot when it comes to certain things. But he says on Twitter, which he spends an insane amount of time on, we'll be meeting with representatives of the vaping industry, together with medical professionals and individual state representatives, to come up with an acceptable solution to the vaping and e-cigarette dilemma. Children's health and safety together with jobs will be a focus. Yeah, well, that's nice and all, but you really kind of fucked up here, Trump. You need to fix this by just not doing it, period. But what's even worse is that another article from Reason says more evidence that black market THC products are responsible for vaping-related lung injuries. As if any of you needed any more evidence already, well, here it is. A new study by researchers at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reinforced the suspicion that vitamin E acetate, an additive used to thicken and dilute cannabis extracts, is playing an important role in the recent outbreak of respiratory disease among vapors. The CDC analyzed lung fluid samples from 29 hospitalized patients in 10 states and detected the additive in all of them. Vitamin E acetate is a nutritional supplement that is safe to swallow or use topically, but may be dangerous when inhaled, leading to lipoid pneumonia, a rare condition caused by fatty particles in the lungs. While this study does not conclusively show that it is happening, the CDC is now calling the thickening agent a very strong culprit. Prior to testing by the Food and Drug Administration, a New York State lab found vitamin E acetate in most samples of THC e-liquids used by patients. Among 23 patients for whom self-reported THC use information was available, 20 report using THC-containing products. The CDC study says THC or its metabolites were detected in 23 or 28 patients. Samples including in those of these 3 patients who said they did not use THC products. The last point underlines the concern that self-reports may not be accurate in determining which substances patients have consumed, since they may be reluctant to admit illegal drug use or may not know the actual contents of products they bought on the black market. In cases where the information is available, the CDC says 86% of patients have reported vaping THC, but the actual number is almost certainly higher. The study also said that nicotine metabolites were found in 16 ball samples, but it's not clear how many of these patients had also vaped THC. In an interview with USA Today, a CDC official said THC wouldn't necessarily remain in the lungs, and urine tests might have been needed to confirm its presence. Nor is it clear where the patients obtained nicotine cartridges or e-fluids, but those products did contain vitamin E acetate that indicates a black market source, since the additive is not used in illegal cigarettes that deliver nicotine. Overall, according to a CDC study published last week, just 11% of patients said they had vaped only nicotine in cases where the information was available. So in short, here's the thing. When you ban something, you remember alcohol prohibition, like way back in the 30s. You know what happened? That just put the means of production of alcohol right into the hands of criminals, because, banning something doesn't actually prevent criminals from obtaining it. Since when do criminals obey the law? That just made it easier for them to set up a black market, and then people would go in droves to a black market to buy black market booze. It's the same thing. You ban vaping, they're going to go to a black market vape shop. And these are the shops that are selling the stuff that's killing people. You will be raising the mortality rate, not lowering it. Think before you act, Donald. Think before you act. In the scale of conscientiousness and caring about what happens as a result of your actions, Trump scales at a measly 1. He clearly does not give a shit. And therefore just needs to be kept out of the marketplace. And needs to deregulate. Because he's just going to make things worse. Especially with legislation like this. He's literally going to be killing people. Anyway, peace. Keep the government out of the marketplace.